Hey Whitney, have you noticed that the old ways of working aren't working anymore?
Yes, Iris. Let's talk about it. I'm Whitney.
And I'm Iris. We are two elite executive coaches / moms / recovering Olympians. We found that we had to unlearn so much of what we were taught as elite athletes and women to gain more freedom and health.
And we've seen our clients facing the same dilemmas. As coaches, we get this front row view of high-performing humans. And we realize we're all trying to make the best out of our potential, both at work and at home.
We will take you behind the curtain and share with you how we untrain our clients and ourselves from toxic mindsets and habits. We will offer you the frameworks and tools to live and work with more ease and joy.
Welcome to Untrained.
Previously on Untrained.
For the past year or so, Whitney knows this, I've been working on just letting go of some of that control. And I find it super disarming, right? To think about if right now is enough and to really sit in that, it's actually more discomforting and uncomfortable than it is to go after the achievement.
Yeah.
There's a grief in letting go because that has been your companion, your orientation for decades. And the idea of letting it go, I don't think at first feels good. I think it feels profoundly uncomfortable.
It feels, the word for
What's
me
the
is
discomfort you've been sitting in, Iris?
Yeah. So the word for me, I think, is untethered, right? I kind of feel uncontained because that was my container for anxiety. It was my container for my life. It's I know how to talk about myself if I can speak in achievements, if I can speak in goals. I know how to orient myself. Welcome to episode 2 with Caryn Davies. Here's more on redefining success. Can you talk a little bit about untethered, that untethered piece? Because there are people who listen to this who have been captains of their teams and then left college and felt untethered, or people right now transitioning careers feel untethered, or whenever you transition an identity. So I wanted to go back to that and say, how did you, after you went to 3 Olympic Games, tried out for 4, so you've had many opportunities of that untethered feeling. How did you lean into it, or what types of things or tools kind of helped you get through in that transition period?
One of my teammates, Leanne Nelson, she had been to the games in 2000. And before 2004, she said to me, you know what? I mean, thank goodness I had a heads up about this, right? She said to me, you know what? No matter what happens in Athens, whether we win or lose, you will be depressed. And you need a plan. You need a plan for what you're going to do afterwards, because you will feel, shouldn't use this word, but you will feel untethered. And thankfully, it was actually easy for me because I still had a year left at Harvard. So my plan was to go back to school. And so I think it was easier for me than a lot of my teammates, because I just dove right back into, for better or worse, just had new goals, dove right back into, all right, well, now I'm going to get good grades and whatever. Although I did manage to bring in a little bit of kind of fun and self-expression. I took a little time off rowing, joined the ballroom dance team.
Yes. I have some things to add to this answer.
I think it's really important to when you're feeling untethered, to explore new sides of yourself and get creative, because that's when there's a void, right? You can fill it with what you want to fill it with, or it will get filled. So make sure that you're intentional about what you fill it with. And then similarly, after 2012, when I was halfway through law school, in 2008, actually, in the months leading up to the games, I was planning out what I'm going to do. And I just thought, I'd really like to live in Montreal and learn French. So I did that. I signed up for a French course at McGill and moved to Montreal. And I was so busy just making new friends in a new city that I didn't really have time to feel untethered.
And I think that that's something I've watched you do that's different from a lot of how I approached it and a lot of your rowing colleagues, or our rowing colleagues, is that I think a lot of people say, I'm going to untether myself from everything and put everything I have in this one thing. Right? I'm going to untether myself from my hobbies, from my interests, from education, right? And just put everything here. And they think that that's making them more likely to be successful. But I think it just puts all your tethering into this one thing that can go away with an injury, with not making the team. And so what I saw Caryn do was she kept herself tethered to adventure, her interests, whether it be like baking bread from scratch while she's training, or taking ballroom dancing, or while she's in San Diego finding people to go sailing with. She kept her interests very alive. And she also was almost always going to school or working while she was doing. And maybe not everybody can manage that. I think not everyone's sort of built to be able to do both things. But I think that really served Caryn, you, because it kept you tethered to more than just one thing. Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing in your life that isn't going well and that's your only thing, you're going to feel real bad about yourself. And I had days that I would have a poor performance on the water and just come home and cry for an hour. But I found that having these other things in my life and these other identities kept my sanity, really. And I think what was most interesting to me about that is how much people judged me for it. I had a lot of teammates who, like you said, got rid of everything else in my life. If I focus only on this one thing and it's all I ever think about, then I will be successful. And of course, if they're not successful, and not everyone can be successful every day. That's one of the things you taught me, Whitney, is training. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have good days and you're also going to have bad days. And you need to figure out a way to deal with the bad days without just ruining your self-confidence, which that's the way I figured it out. But some people would look at me doing all these other things and think that meant that I wasn't committed. I wasn't committed to the goal. I wasn't working hard enough. I wasn't really, and really what I took away from that is, I get it. I'm not beating myself up enough.
Yeah.
That's what people expect sometimes is in order to show your dedication, you have to show your misery.
Yeah, you have to suffer.
You have to show how willing you are to be
miserable,
to hurt yourself.
That is hard, right? So this untraining piece of it is definitely having immigrant parents and having a Chinese mom, not having everything be dedicated to productivity, everything dedicated to an achievement piece. It was unsafe. So it's the same thing. Like growing up, it was like, you're going to hang out with your friends. That's not being productive or working on your goal. That you have to be constantly thinking about or working on your goal. And I think that's the untraining that, many of us do as coaches is we're trying to tell people, yes, you're trying to found a company and a startup, and it is really hard, but you need other things to tether you so that when you have a bad day, right? It's not just about taking care of your health and wellness. It's not just about taking a break or relaxing, but it's that you have other identities and not everything is packed into productivity, which can lead to burnout and lead to the opposite effect of what you want. Yeah. So I did want to kind of tell that story because it is a new training that we're trying to do as coaches is tell people that they need to, it's kind of like diversifying your investments, right? You don't want to dump all of your savings into one investment because you don't know how it's going to go and it can go up and down. So you want to diversify your investments in the things. So I do see, hold on, Whitney, one more thing is when I work with when I work with docs, when I work with startup founders, when I work with people in the C-suite, they feel really guilty if they're not being productive at all times towards this one goal. And I just want them, whoever's listening, to hear this from the most winningest American athlete at Harvard. In order to be successful, diversify your identity. Tether yourself to other things other than just that task list for the company or for the hospital or for whatever it is you're working on.
And ideally, some of those things that you tether yourself to outside, there is no definition of success, right? You can't just have a billion things that you're trying to succeed at, right?
Well, you said diversify your investments, which I think is brilliant, right? Because when you go to your financial advisor, it's for the sake of safety, right? It's for the sake of having enough at the end or when you need it. And one of the ways we help our clients diversify their investment is investing in themselves, investing here versus just out there. And what I hear, what Caryn's saying is investing in the things, just the simple act of diversifying your investments is investing in yourself. And, we try and help some of these outer diversifications being more connected to the inner journey and people's inside, so they can feel that sense of containment within themselves and not just from the momentum of moving towards a goal. Because that's really what it is. It's not getting the goal, because as we see, once you get the goal, it leads to depression very often, even if you win it. Mm-hmm. It's the momentum, it's the process of moving towards it that feels safe, that feels like belonging, that feels hopeful. Mm-hmm. And so in that, while they're moving, we want to help them not just be moving towards this one target, but moving towards themselves and creating that containment within themselves at the same time. I don't know if I captured that, but I'd love to hear both of you reflect on that.
Well, I'm reminded of just jumping in. I'm reminding of our episode on invisible victory and your wonderful poem that's in the show notes about victory's visit, where victory comes and in the moment you feel so damn good, but it's just not lasting. Right. So for some reason, we have trained ourselves to believe if I get to this success, if I reach this goal, that I'm going to feel so good and it'll be fine. I'm going to see myself in the mirror and be like, yeah, you're awesome. Right. But the truth is that's not true. It's false. So I do yourself a favor, audience, and go back to the show notes and read Whitney's wonderful Victory's Visit poem, because it really, I think about it a lot, it is very temporary. So I think knowing that is important.
The only thing that's different about the what I wrote and what Caryn's saying is saying temporarily you feel good, but the victory, the goal you were going after didn't give it to you. And how do we go after feeling good? And that's diversifying your investments, focusing on yourself, all the things that we coach people on. You want to add anything, Iris?
No.
I do. What I remember of that poem is that good feeling was more one of relief.
Yes.
And that's the most surprising thing to me. People ask me, what's it like to win a gold medal? It's not elation, it's relief. I mean, the in London, our second gold medal, we crossed the finish line, and the first thought that crossed my mind was, thank goodness I didn't screw this up. It wasn't like, yay, I won another gold medal. It was like, oh, thank gosh, I don't have to feel that pressure anymore. And then you feel content, you feel at ease for a while, but then that untethered feeling starts to creep in, and suddenly you feel uncomfortable again.
So I'm wondering if we each could go get this rare opportunity to time travel and go back and tell our younger selves one thing we'd like to tell them.
So you made three teams, medaled in 3, and then you went after a 4th games, and that you didn't make the team. This is it. Let's go down this route. Yes.
All right. Great. Okay. Actually, this story has 2 nuggets, so I'm going to cheat and tell my younger self 2 things. The first thing that I would tell myself, and I'll get into why, is to be more vulnerable. And the second thing I would tell myself is remember that sometimes your greatest successes come from somewhere you never thought they would. So I retired after my second gold medal in 2012, and I became a corporate lawyer, and I did that for 7 years. And I wasn't getting the kind of, validation that I wanted. I didn't feel myself. And I thought back to, all right, when have I felt most myself and most validated and connected and whatever? Oh yeah, that's right. When I was training. So I came out of retirement to train for Tokyo 2020. This was in 2019. And I got back to the training center in Princeton, New Jersey. and I didn't fit in. I felt super uncomfortable because the team had completely changed. There was like 2 people that I knew, but most of them were a completely new crop of athletes. And they didn't like me because, I was a new kid, and I mean, let's be real. I think they felt threatened, right? Like, I was a successful athlete coming back, and they had their training group, and they knew what was what, and I was disrupting things. And I didn't really know how to handle that, because I had come back with this goal of, I wanted to be a leader and I wanted to be a great teammate. And I had been really intentional in setting these goals, but I didn't know how to do that when people didn't want to be my friend and didn't want to listen to my advice. So I just kind of put my head down. And if there's one thing I've learned, I alluded to it earlier, that that in a sports environment, performance speaks for itself. If you're doing really well, people tend to like you and they accept you. So I was like, all right, I'll just, put my head down and work really hard. And then maybe people will accept me if I start winning. But the thing is, I was a lot older. I am a lot older. and I wasn't as strong as I used to be. And so I was just hanging out near the bottom of the pack every workout, just really struggling. But I felt like I couldn't, I felt threatened. I felt unsafe because I hadn't been accepted. So I felt like I couldn't share with these women around me who were going through the exact same thing. I couldn't share how hard it was for me. I couldn't share the fact that I was scared of not making the team, or that I was tired all the time and I couldn't recover, because it gets harder as you get older. And so I was just unhappy. And then the Olympics was postponed. COVID came, 2020, and the Olympic Committee decided to postpone the Olympic Games until 2021. So all of a sudden it's March of 2020, and I had this choice to make. Like, am I going to put myself through another year of this? Because I did not want to be there. I wasn't having a good time. I wasn't getting out of it what I thought I was going to get out of it. So I did a lot of soul searching and thought, okay, well, you had this goal that you were going to be a great teammate and be a mentor and a leader. And you haven't achieved it yet. So basically you can't quit now. And I thought, all right, I have another chance. I have another year. What am I going to do about it? And I spent that whole summer of 2020. I called every single one of my teammates and I said, what can I do to be a better teammate to you? And some of these women, I mean, one of them just burst out crying. She was like, no one has ever asked me that before. And she actually didn't even know what to say. She was like, I don't know, like, keep doing what you're doing. I don't know. And most of those conversations were wonderful. Some of them were awful. One teammate said to me, I've known you for 15 years and I have nothing good to say about you. I was like, okay, but that wasn't the question. Well, how can I do better? And that was a really hard summer for me. I could only manage about 2 or 3 phone calls a week because they were so emotional and I did a lot of crying. But at the end of that, I felt completely different. I felt like I could be myself. And, not everyone was going to like me. That teammate who hasn't liked me for 15 years, she still doesn't like me. But you know what? You can't please everyone. What I found was that by sharing, one teammate told me, hey, everyone thinks that you're entitled because you just act like you're going to make the team no matter what. And I realized that, well, that wasn't true. I felt like I was a long shot to make the team, but I hadn't shared that, like, hey, I'm really scared that I'm not going to make this team. And so once I started to share some of that vulnerability and people started to share a little bit with me, things changed. The tenor just became much more supportive and people started asking me for advice. And all of a sudden I kind of stepped into that role that I had always wanted. And I did it by being vulnerable. So things were going great. And then I got injured. It was spring of 2021. I hurt my shoulder. I couldn't row for 3 months. I spent 3 months riding the exercise bike in the back of the boat bay. And I would just be like thrashing myself, like, as I watched my teammates carrying their boat out into the sunshine. And I sort of felt like my dreams were also receding into the sunshine of making another Olympic team and winning another Olympic medal. And I did a lot of crying, but mostly I just showed up every day because I wanted people to know that I was there for them, not just for me. And every time I thought of quitting, I was like, you can't quit. You still have a goal, and your goal is to be a good teammate and a good mentor. And the best thing that you can do right now is just show people that it's just show up with a smile on your face as much as you can. And then I started rowing again, but I was like bottom of the pack, slow. I hadn't rowed in 3 months, and we went into selection with various races to determine who would make the team. And I just kept losing. But I just kept showing up. And I was like, guys, I'm here. Let's do this. And even after I knew that I was like, basically, I wasn't going to make the team, they needed people to fill out the last seat in the boat so that the boats could race. And so I showed up, and people noticed that. And then I got cut. Coach called me into his office, and he said, I think you know what I'm going to say. I was like, yep. No surprises here. I'm holding back tears, but I was like, yeah, I know what you're going to say. And he said, I'm not going to put you on the team. I'm not going to give you any more chances. You won't be going to Tokyo. But he also said something that I didn't expect. And he said, many of these women, they don't yet know, some may never know what it is to be an Olympian. But you showed by your actions in the last 3 months, by your attitude and your support of this team, that you are a true Olympian. And I walked out of his office, and I was holding back tears. I walked out the door of the boathouse and straight past a group of women who were kind of stretching outside of the boat bay. And I couldn't even look at them because I knew that if I did, that I would cry, and I didn't want to cry. So I just looked down and I walked straight past them. And later I was talking to my friend Liv Coffey, and she said, I watched you walk out of that boathouse, and I thought, is this it? Is this how Caryn Davies' rowing career ends? She just walks away and doesn't even say goodbye to any of us. But as it turned out, that's not how it ended. I got home, and over the next couple of days, I received text messages from most of my teammates, just all thanking me and saying how much they appreciated me and how much they learned from me. And I want to read a couple of them for you. Kendall Chase said, thank you for racing with me and helping me get better. Christine O'Brien said, it's been an honor to train with you. Thank you for being a great teammate. Aaron Relick said, you've been a great teammate to me, and it took me too long to see that. Claire Collins said, I'm so thankful I got to overlap with you for 2 years. I've learned so much from our conversations and from observation. Thank you for being so kind to me. And this last one from Caitlin, the coxswain, she said, Caryn, I really, really love you, and I have more respect for you than anyone else in my life. And then she had a few sentences full of expletives, so I'm going to skip them. She said, I trust you so deeply, and I'm so grateful to be your teammate. You made me a better athlete and teammate and person, and I really, really love you. And getting those messages and reflecting on my performance over the last couple of years, I realized I had won something more important than an Olympic gold medal. I had won the trust and the respect, and in some cases, even the love of my teammates. And so that day I learned that belonging is more important than success. That was what I was seeking all along. When I was seeking success, I was really seeking belonging. And sometimes the most valuable contribution you can make is not through your performance.
Oh my God, I'm crying. I mean, I feel that intensely, just because I think when people externally look at an Olympian, they want you to have a medal. but you didn't make a team, and you demonstrated in that moment being an Olympian. And I think that's being a true Olympian and what it means. And I don't know, that's hitting pretty hard right now.
Well, and just as sort of your mentor, Caryn, had said, like, without all the other, he's talking about drinking, but like without all those other experiences, this one wouldn't mean what it does, right? So this being your last, this goal of being the best teammate on top of these 3 medals means something different because of who you are. So I just thank you. It's a beautiful story. I'm so grateful for your willingness to be open and share it, and for the tenacity of your spirit in being willing to shed all those tears and be vulnerable and learn. And thank you for gifting us all with that story.
This is a great time for us to kind of have some closing thoughts around success, right? So I'd love for Caryn to tie the bow a little bit and come full circle of when you started, there was this sense of chasing success to belong, and how you've revamped the word success and what it means to you with all your experiences. So I'd love for you to kind of come full circle, although you kind of did, but I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah. You know, even after all that learning, hard-won learning, I still have trouble remembering that success isn't really what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for peace. I'm really looking for belonging. And so I guess what I want to say to myself and what I want to say to everyone listening is get clear on what you really are looking for, because it's probably not in the places that you're searching for it in. And so that day I learned that belonging is more important than success. That was what I was seeking all along. When I was seeking success, I was really seeking belonging. It's probably not found in that on that mountaintop or at the end of that long road that you think it is. It's probably right there, and you just have to kind of open your eyes and see it.
And I would say that often takes time, the opening of the eyes, and that it can often be, it doesn't happen overnight, and that in my experience, you need support to get there. You need other people to give you that sense of belonging as you're on the journey. And it's about deciding you want that, as Caryn said, what you really want, and then surrounding yourself with the supports that are going to help you get there. It's not an individual sport, belonging. I mean, it can't be, right? It can't be. So it takes time and it takes support, and don't expect to get there by a mental switch in your mind. You need to surround yourself and allow it to take time. Iris?
Oh man, there's so many good things about today's conversation that I'm still learning too. I'm very oriented around success in that pathway, and I'm in the midst of feeling very untethered at the moment, having left my position in August and starting my own thing. I think one of the things I'm thinking about and processing is I do think you do have to kind of go through things. I think we are all going to start off with the training that we have these goals that we need to set, and we're going to go after them, right? So I think we all have that. But I do think there's a point you need to recognize that patterning or that training needs to shift. And so we're kind of talking about that right now. And a lot of the people we talk to have pattern in this way, this really lofty goal, I'm going to achieve it, I'm going to go. And they've been successful, won the medal, done the things. But we get to a point where now we have kids, now we have other things, now we have aging parents, now we have all these other things on our plate. And it really does take time and transition to a new place of defining success. So I think if I'm going to take away anything is I think recognize where you are in your pathway. You might be at the very beginning of your pathway and like really driving and pushing and striving hard, and that's okay. You know, if you're not in that position and you're starting to feel like this isn't working for me and I'm feeling kind of tired and worn out and this isn't quite right, start to get curious and explore. And you're right. It always comes down to, in our episodes, curiosity and call a friend, right? So like start to get curious and start to explore, maybe with others or with a coach, you know, what is my success? What is the validation I'm seeking? Am I really seeking this or am I seeking that? I had a friend yesterday tell me, you know, when I was growing up, what I felt like success was earning a couple $1 million. And he's like, now that I've got, you know, X number of kids and I've got a good job and I'm not sure that's the right thing for me. And maybe I should start redefining why I wanted that in the first place, or deciding like, what is it that I wanted out of that, and revamping what success might look like for the next 20 or so years or next 10 years. So I think it is an invitation. If you're feeling that discomfort, if it feels like it's not right, now is an invitation to redefine your success, or what are you seeking? Get curious. What am I really seeking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In business school, whenever we were taught, it's a like Japanese method. Whenever you're approaching a problem, you need to go at least 5 layers deep of the 5 whys. So your friend, he might say, okay, I want $1 million. I want $2 million. Why? I want financial security. Why? And if you go at least 5 layers deep, you usually realize that the real reason is not anything that you thought it was. And once you get there, you know, maybe what he really wants is to be able to have some free time. You know, once you have financial security, then you can quit your job and have free time. Okay, well, maybe the way to achieve that is just to create free time right now. Why wait till you have $2 million?
And you heard it from the most winningest American Harvard Olympian and all those accolades and all the things. So you heard it here. All right. I am very thankful for all of you, and I love you both very much. If you like what you hear, subscribe to our channels. And what do we say at the end of our podcast, Whitney?
Keep on training.